Good evening. Thank you very much. I love that song. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Wow, I am so honored. I heard there were 3 sharks here. Oh my goodness, a huge competition, a car to give away. My goodness. First of all, I want to say thank you to Robin and her team for having me here. It is a pleasure to be here. I want you to know that today we're going to close off this amazing conference with a hoorah at the end. I want you to leave here on a higher level of tenacity, resilience, and expectations of reaching your full potential. I don't know what your full potential looks like, and I'm not the speaker to say that everything is possible. Just think positive, right? Because we know when the crap hits the fan, positivity ain't enough. You know what I'm talking about? And when you look at the last 3 years of everyone's life and what we've experienced, connecting the heart and the mind to be in unison with your feelings, with your thoughts that then produce actions. There is no way that you would have come this far in your company without an alignment for a very long period of time of understanding that heart, mind, action have to be in line. Now, that doesn't mean that you become a robot and you've got this down and you crack the formula and now you're definitely going to, hit the blue sky for your potential in your company. As the world changes, our companies need to continue to look at the evolutions to keep up from a business entrepreneurial level to then pandemic of 2020. And we had to pivot, we had to reset. But what I want you to understand is that 2020 wasn't the first global crisis, and it ain't going to be the last one. And when we actually look at our life from a different mindset, connecting that heart and mind daily to making sure that our priorities are being met, our feelings, our thoughts, and actions align, and you basically understand that without resistance, there is no resilience. And there are so many times where we actually get handcuffed and disabled between the heart and the mind with our emotions based on circumstances, based on what people say about what you think or what you think people are thinking about you that may not be true or is true. And what I want to talk about is the battle of the mind. What I want you to understand is that you can actually understand that there are no limits if you frame your mind and thinking in a way. I'm not saying again that everything is possible, but I'm saying, let me just tell you, what I thought was impossible was possible. And no one knew what I could do until I tried. And you can't try without expecting to fail. It's okay to fail, though, if failure is part of the journey and framed in a way as your classroom. Are you seeing where I'm going? So many people stop in their life at different limitations that we put ourselves on, that we put our businesses on, based on our feelings, based on our circumstances, based on our expectations. And then we start convincing ourselves that, well, if I fail, then I'm a failure. If I have no arms and no legs, well, then I have limits. Well, yeah, I have limits. Do I still have no arms, no legs? Yeah. But did I blow through the limits of what people kind of perceived that a little boy with arms and legs could or could not do? Absolutely. Where did it start? With the resilient mind. This is what I want you to know today, that I want you to dream big. Tell the person next to you, dream big. Okay, turn to them again and say, I'm wrong. Dream bigger. You know, so many people see me as a speaker, and I'm so thankful that I've traveled 78 countries. I've been with 25 presidents and prime ministers. I was just with the government of Hungary. I was just with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about 6 months ago. There were governments that asked me to speak throughout public school systems mandatorily about the resiliency, about anti-bullying, about teen suicide prevention programs. And then Benjamin Netanyahu will have me also speak to the military. And whether we're in school, whether we're in military, or whether we're in business, the principles are the same. And for me, I love it when I look back at my life and I now have a friend who basically gave me words to put what I learned back then as a kid. It's like when people would come up to you and say as a child, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And then I felt like stupid because I not only have no arms and legs, but wait a second, am I just going to be somebody that doesn't have a job? Then what does that even mean for me? And subconsciously, we kind of on the back end on defense, psychologically, we think that our value has some kind of pertinence to how much, I don't know, how many zeros are in our bank account, if we have a job, if we don't have a job, if we're married, if we're barren, if we're conceiving kids. And these subconscious things were something that I needed to realize at that psychological level for me to actually love me for me and make sure that I'm not limiting me. But on the front end, when you're dreaming bigger, my friend who's, I don't know, 5 years younger than me, he just sold his app for $400 million. He's younger than me. He's fully retired. He doesn't know if he wants to work anymore. And you know what? I got him at one of my conferences, and he said to my audience, he said, "You know what the problem is with the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs?" And they said, "What is it?" They said, "You know, for the people in tech space," he says, "so many people look at, I don't know, Elon Musk. They look at Steve Jobs. They look at all these other role models that we can say in a certain context, they're very successful. In fact, one of the most successful entrepreneurs can be referenced now for many decades ahead." And Max Roper, he said, "You know what our problem is? We limit ourselves." He says, "I'm telling the next generation, don't say, I want to be like Elon Musk." He said, "We limit ourselves in our thinking, and straight out the gate, we're not reaching for the galaxies." You know, Zig Ziglar said, "Aim your goals and dreams to the heavens, so if they miss, they're still up there with the stars." And this is where I want to start with our time here together. How big are you dreaming? Max Roper says, don't say, "I want to be like Elon Musk, like Steve Jobs, like whoever." I want to do greater and better and bigger things than Elon Musk. Because how did Elon Musk become Elon Musk? And I want you to understand that you today might be more disabling in your mindset to reach your full potential more than a guy without arms and legs. So I want you to right now take a deep breath in and out. And I want you to write down, or you all got a piece of paper and a pen in front of you, or you got a notepad of something. I'm going to talk about obstacles and opportunities, and I'm going to have you write down some stuff. So while you're getting some paper and pen, I want to share with you a little bit of my story. I wasn't able to see how many people recognize my name, but real quick, I was backstage. Put your hand up if you've never heard of me before. I want to see. Awesome. Good. So let me just start with my story. Nice to meet you. I'm Nick. Pleasure. Born and raised in Australia. My mom was fleeing communism when she was 6 years old with her 8 siblings and her mom and dad. They crossed the Austrian Alps in 1962. They were in refugee camps, and they went to Australia. They were persecuted for their faith. My dad in 1969, he was 15 years old, and his dad went to the Border Patrol, wrote down the house address that they lived in a very small village, gave the Border Patrol the keys, and said, "Just let us go." and they fled. Here's the keys to the house. Here's all of our possessions. And they were in refugee camps. They went to Italy. They went to Austria. And then they went to Australia. In Melbourne, Australia is the melting pot of all these migrants that came. And Serbians started a community there. And my mom and dad met. They fell in love. They were married for 5 years. And then they had me. And I said, surprise. Just when you think fleeing from a communism country to refugee camps and then finally finding your feet, now you have a limbless kid. My mom at the time was a midwife nurse in Australia, and she was the head of midwifery birthing suite in department. So she's actually done a lot. In Australia, the nursing department's very different. She had handled nearly everything. She could do epidurals. She was the head, though, of all the midwifery in that hospital. But when it came to her own pregnancy, she was so excited that they didn't check to make sure that I had arms, legs, fingers, and toes. And so when I came out, it was such a shock. And the doctor couldn't believe it, held me lower so my mom couldn't see me. But my dad saw my shoulder without an arm. And he nearly fainted. He couldn't believe what he saw, but he knew what he saw was what he saw. And he walked out of the room, and the doctor basically huddled me, gave me to the nurses. The nurses started weeping and took me to the furthest corner of the room. And my mom said, "What is wrong?" And the doctor said phocomelia. My mom, being in medicine, knew it's a term of a baby being born with limb deficiencies for no medical reason, phocomelia. And she said, "Okay, how many limbs?" "None." They said, "Do you want to see him?" "No." "Please take him away." The doctor comes to my dad, and my dad says, "Hey, my son, he has no arm. I saw his shoulder. He has no arm." And the doctor says, "Sorry, he has no arms and no legs." My dad came up to my mom, and he was distressed to know that he wasn't there. He was hoping the doctor would come to him first, and then they can break the news to my mom. And then he saw that I wasn't even there. They wept. They went through incredible trauma. As you can imagine, months of grieving, of shock, of emotion. But in that moment, right when I was born, my dad said, "Can I go see him?" And she said, "Sure." He came to me. I was wrapped up. He unwrapped me, looked at me, wrapped me back up. And he came back to my mom and said, "He's beautiful and he's handsome." And my dad and my mom, they took me home. It took 16 weeks for my mom to hold me with peace. The grieving process of when you go through a tragedy, you've got shock, you've got denial, you've got questions. And I want you to know that being in a broken home, I think, is worse than having no arms and no legs. Some of you have had more trauma than me. I can't imagine my parents going through that at all. They told me how it felt. They told me what happened, but I can't really understand. And I want you to know that you're seeing me here today without limbs, and I am not telling you that I understand your pain, that I understand your fear, that I understand any part of what you've been through. But what's interesting about the heart and the mind are the emotions, whether it's rejection, fear of failure, being alone, depressed, anxiety, all this stuff. We are all feeling some things. And I'm never going to tell you that I understand you. But I'll tell you, don't give up, because there is hope. And when you hit walls of resistance, you don't just go through things, ready? You grow through things. And some of us are so quick to forget those moments where maybe curveballs have have come in your life and you get over it and you quickly forget. And I want you to remember where you came from, not to make you feel emotional, deliberately emotional in a negative way. No, not so, whatever. Not whatsoever. What I want you to understand is you're here today. And your history is my story. My history is my story. Your history is your story. And for as long as you're breathing, guess what? The story ain't over yet. And my parents, they gave me a chance. They gave me a chance. The doctor said, "We are so sorry that we didn't give you an opportunity to abort your child. He will never have a quality of life. He will never go to school, and he will never walk." The reason why they said I wouldn't be able to go to school is because when I was born in 1982, there was law in Australia in the education system that prohibited me from being integrated as a disabled citizen of Australia to be actually included in the mainstream school system. So I was supposed to be segregated into a special needs school with all sorts of special needs. But what the doctors did not know about my mom is that my mom would be the mom, who would go to the government and say, "Hey, what do you think about changing the law?" And guess what they did after a little discussion? They changed the law. My mom, when she was 6, got kicked out of her own home, refugees, came to Australia, now changing law policy for special needs children across the nation. What an incredible full potential she'd never dreamed of before. And for me, man, I tell you, no one knew what I could do with my little foot. I love this thing, man. After 2 cups of coffee, I can type 53 words a minute. Smartphones changed my life, as you can imagine. The dictation stuff, Siri don't understand my accent. She don't, I just rather type than dictate anything. But I'll tell you right now, no one ever dreamed that this little boy who would then go to school, who would be obviously the only, if you will, most noticeable student, would actually become someone who would give hope to others, even though there were years of my life, as you can imagine, my shock when I first went to school, I knew I had no arms and no legs. It's not like one day I woke up and I said, "What happened?" Kids would come up to me at school and say, "What happened?" I say, "Cigarettes." And I didn't know what my future held. But I tell you, it was hard, man. Just my daily life coming home saying, Mom and Dad, I don't want to go to school." "Well, you have to go to school." "Why?" "Well, you have to go to school." "But they're teasing me." What are they saying? Also, don't listen to them. "You're beautiful. We love you. There's a greater plan for your life. Don't give up. It's okay." Blah, 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 blah. And they were persistent in planting seeds of potential. They were persistent in planting seeds verbally, number 1. Number 2, body language. Number 3, quality time with me. When your teenager don't want to talk to you, I'm telling you right now, tell them you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. They shut the door, put a do not disturb sign, go through outside the door, go around the house, stick your head through the window saying, "You're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful." Because as much as they say they don't want to hear it, I'll tell you they need it. They need the verbal affirmation. They need the physical eye contact, your body language. They need that affirmation. They need that time. Play video games with them. Say, you know what, get off that technology, and we're gonna have a board game. For as long as they're underneath your house, it's your house. You paid the bills, you give them food. And I want you to know, sure, I don't have teenagers, but I'll tell you right now, you got to put in that effort. And I'm glad that my parents put in that effort for me, for my brother, for my sister, because sometimes I didn't believe in me. In fact, at age 10, I attempted suicide. I tried to drown myself in 6 inches of water. I was overcome with grief, with fear of rejection, with fear of failure, with fear of never being anybody. What am I going to be? I saw, boys and girls holding hands. I'm thinking, I'm never going to get a girlfriend. I'm not going to get married. Even if I got married, I can't even hold my wife's hand. Even if I had kids, I can't even hold my kids when they cry. What kind of a father is that? If I'm never going to get a job, never going to get married, and I have no limbs, and the world's just going to tease me for the rest of my life, what is the point? And I'm so thankful that on the 3rd time of rolling over in 6 inches of water to start swallowing and choking myself, to drown myself in my bathtub at age 10, I was stopped with one visual in my mind, seeing my mom and my dad crying at my grave, wishing they could have done something more. And I realized I didn't want to leave that with them. Why? Because they told me every day, we love you, we believe in you, don't give up, we love you. And I want to now show you a photo. There should be a photo. This is me and my wife. Her name is Kanae. She is half Japanese, half Mexican. We call that Japsican. She is beautiful. She is amazing. She is my hero. She is my warrior. She is my best friend. We go out on dates because I want to continue to pursue her, because my priority is my family, and my family's health depends on me keeping a best friend status with my wife. We've now been married for 11 years. I'm 40 years old, and we have, check this out. Look at this photo. 4 biological children. This photo's about 3 years old. So Kiyoshi, he is 10 now. Dayan is 7, and twin girls. Identical twin girls. I didn't know that there's a 1/3% chance that anytime you get pregnant, that sometimes you get 2. It's amazing. And I mean, these kids, man. Kiyoshi, the tallest, he was sitting down at the kitchen one day, and he says, Daddy, I wish you had arms. I said, why, babe? He said, because I want to know how it feels to be hugged by you. So me and my wife were like, and we're holding our breath, trying to keep our emotions together. And he says, but that's okay, Daddy. I said, why? He said, because, and he flexes his biceps, and he says, I'm strong. And that just means I'm going to hug you longer and stronger so you can feel mine. Woo! 7 years old, baby. Amazing. He calls himself a thousandaire. I bought that domain, thousandaire.com. No one took it. I think that's genius. And I taught him what my parents taught me. We ain't going to give you what you want, when you want it, how you want it, because the world ain't going to give you what you want, when you want, how you want it. And when you give your kids everything they want, how they want it, when they want it, they're never thankful for anything. Then we wonder, why are they not thankful? You rule the home, you rule the rules. You own the rules. Don't bend. I got a belt. Yeah. I don't know how they found my fingerprints, but they saw all the trouble that I made. And I got a spanking. And I only got a birthday gift. I want that toy. My dad said, no. Buy it yourself. I don't have money. Well, figure it out. Tell the person next to you, figure it out. Right? We got to hear that more. Figure it out, right? It's so funny. We focus on the things we cannot change to the point we become numb and disengaged that we never change what we can. It's amazing. My dad never let me play the victim card. So you know what I did? I picked up the vacuum cleaner and I figured it out. And with my shoulder and my chin, I vacuumed the floor for $2 a week. It was amazing. It gave me this sense of dignity. I knew that when I wanted to buy a toy for $15, I would have to work hard for 8 weeks. It taught me patience. It taught me how to set goals. It gave me a real understanding that money don't grow on trees. Are you with me? That's what we did for our boys and doing for our girls. In Kiyoshi, he's earned to this day $2,000. He gave away $1,000 to the poor and the needy of Dallas, which is where we now live in Texas. And I'll tell you, he bought jackets, food, blankets. He wants to give money away. Why? Because I told him to? No. He sees mommy and daddy being generous, so he becomes generous. Do you understand? So first and foremost, let's go back now to you. What I want you to know is that this perspective, you can't change what you can't change, but you can change what you can. But you ain't going to figure out the difference till you try. Do you understand? When you dream big, you have to invest. That's why you come into conferences like this. That's why you invest in different programs to learn and go to the next level. That's why you're here, because you know that there's more. And you know that whether it's something to continue to evolve in or innovate along the way, you got to keep going. But I want to ask you, who are you? Who are you? Would you say that you have an attitude of gratitude? Because I'll tell you today that I'm going to give you a couple things that we're going to write together. But here's the foundational premise. Ready? Don't write this down. Just look at me for a second. Ready? I'll tell you right now. If you ain't happy single, you ain't going to be happy married. Another way to say it, if you ain't happy with the money you have today, you ain't going to be happy with the money you have tomorrow. Because tomorrow when you have that money, guess what you're going to be thinking? I need a little bit more. The premise is that sometimes, I'm not saying don't get married. I love being married. But I'm going to tell you, if you're single and you just want to get married to be happy, go talk to some married people. It's difficult. We have this picture that once we have X amount of millions of dollars in the bank, then we'll be happy. You had a 401k, now it's a 41k. Oops. Was it your fault? No. How does that make you feel? Crap. A lot of uncertainty in the world right now. What you don't know about me is I am an entrepreneur. I have 3 companies. I have 25 employees. What you don't know about me is I went into stock trading at age 16. I was an options trader at age 17. I was making 20% returns in 6 weeks. Compound that, it's a lot of money for a teenager. I started speaking and making 5 figures a week as a speaker, as a 19, 20-year-old. Then investing that in the stock market. Then going into real estate at age 19. Went to college at a Bachelor of Commerce in Financial Planning and Accounting. Graduated at 21. Made my first million at 27. Now we live in Dallas, Texas. Dallas in the United States of Texas. Love Texas. Oh my gosh, I love Texas. I'm going to get me a big belt buckle. I got my hat. But I'll tell you right now, people never imagined what a limbless man could do. Also, never, never did I imagine that I would be able to be who I am today and doing what I'm doing and loving what I'm doing and becoming an entrepreneur to say yes or no to work. At age 40, it's been an accomplishment. It's been a lot of hard work. It's been a lot of tears. And I needed counseling in February 2021. I want you to know, do you see my foot? Ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. And you know what's beautiful about life? You never get there. If you keep on reaching for the stars. Nikola Tesla died with dreams unachieved. Do you believe me? Steve Jobs died with dreams unachieved. Do you believe me? Because they reached their successes reaching for the stars. I'm reaching for the stars. And I always will be. I'm so happy with the money that I have. I lost a lot of money in the last 3 years, and that hurt. But money comes, money goes. Money won't fix stuff. It's your heart, it's your mind, and your action. Some of us actually still need counseling, and I encourage you to do so because you need your heart and your mind realigned. Some of you come home, you take a double shot of whiskey, and you don't want to engage in any conversation with anything. Your day is done. No, it's not. You got a wife. You got kids. You need to connect your brain and your heart. You want to know why I'm happy? Because today is today. And tomorrow will always be tomorrow. And I miss my dad that I buried at 63 years old in 2017. And I wished I cherished the todays with him more. Every day is a gift. Make sure when you go home, you buy your wife flowers, massage her stinky feet, and pick up your socks off the stupid floor, finally. I'm joking. But I'll tell you right now, hug your kids. Have conversations with them outside of getting off technology, cleaning their room, and homework. Talk with them. Go on walks with them. Try and meet them halfway. It ain't too late. Today is today. So connect in your mind your priorities. First thing I want you to write down is this heading. Ready? The grid of happiness. The grid of happiness. Now, this is universal. This is something that's so generic, in my opinion, that it should apply to every single one of us, okay? Number one, put the word faith. Just put it down. I don't have religion. Just put it down. Faith. Number two, family. Number three, friends. Number four, fitness. Number five, finance. Number six, fun. I want you to leave a line and now write this down. My dream is. I'm going to put some soft music on. And I want maybe for 30 seconds, I want you to write down your dream. Now, go. What's your dream? Gonna give you 10 seconds. When you're done, put your pens down so I can just see if you're done and look at me. Keep the music going. Thanks. Cool. Gonna give you another 5 seconds. All right. Make sure you've done this because I'm about to use what we've just done together. Ready? Cool. Everyone, stand to your feet, please. I want you to face me. I know this is going to feel a little weird, okay? Just get over it. I want you, when I say after 1, 2, 3, I want you to yell at me, what you wrote down when you started the sentence as my dream is. Yeah, does that make sense? And please make sure that you shout it in a way that I don't say, do it again louder. Okay, I've done this before, right? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, now say it like you mean it. Go. All right. Now I want you to turn to one person real quick. Tell him your dream. Go. Okay, switch. The other person now tell them your dream. You should have listened to one. Have them now tell you. All right, good. Have a seat. How would you react if I told you that you got that car? You're pretty excited. There you go. Some of us are alive. What if I actually told you that you're actually closer to your dream than you think? You know what's interesting is I didn't think that I was going to go into finance. I didn't think I'd become an entrepreneur. I thought I would actually, I didn't think that I was going to be a speaker. I thought I was going to be an investor and a financial planner and start my own CFP, Certified Financial Practicing, financial accounting businesses. My dad said, Nick, you have no limbs. Get employees. They can be your hands and feet. That's what I thought I was going to do. I never thought I'd be a speaker. And when I actually got up as a vice president at my high school in my senior year, I had to do a speech, and my palms were sweaty, my knees were shaking, because I don't know if you know the greatest fear in Google, right? If you Google it, the greatest fear in the world is public speaking. And the second biggest fear is death. So some people would actually rather die before they become a public speaker. And so I actually did this speech, and the janitor who was cleaning the toilets at my high school, after my speech later that day, pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, that was good." I said, "What?" He said, "Your speech." I said, "Oh, thanks." He said, "You're going to be a worldwide speaker." I said, "What?" He said, "You're going to be a worldwide speaker." I said, "No, you're a crazy old man." I said, "What are you talking about? Like, what am I going to speak about?" He says, "You're going to share your story." I said, "I don't have a story." He says, "Yes, you do." I said, "No, I don't." And I walked away. I didn't think much of it. Next day, I see him, and I remember. It's the crazy guy. And he says, "Nick, listen, just let me arrange your first speech, and you can share your story." I said, "No, thank you. No, leave me alone." And I walked away. I was kind of like, this guy's seriously freaking me out. Next day, I look at him. He looks at me. I start walking. He starts running after me. And I'm like, dude, after 3 months, he twisted my arm. I said, "Yes." And I got up in front of these 6 or 7, young people, and I just spoke from my heart. And I'm seeing this girl cry. She's like, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Why are you crying?" "I was just touched." I'm thinking, all right, you're good acting. Thank you for making me make me feel like I did something okay. They said, "Can we get your phone number?" I said, "What do you want my phone number for?" "We know some other people who need to hear what you just said." And I spoke a couple of times, and I told my mom and dad, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." My mom's like, "What are you doing?" Like, these strangers, they pick you up at night, because I was going out in the evening sometimes and speaking to groups. And I come home. She says, "I don't know what's going on." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm speaking." She said, "But wait a second. You come back with these strangers. You go out for a couple of hours. You're smiling, and they're crying." She says, "What are you speaking about?" I said, "Look, I'm just sharing my story."